Now, yesterday, I sat down with former First Lady Melania Trump to discuss her new memoir called Melania. We spoke about the upcoming election, the importance of this race, and the lawfare that is being used against her husband, her family. Here's part one of that interview. Take a look. Madam First Lady, it's great to see you again.
Nice to see you, too.
Thank you for doing this. You don't love media interviews, and I don't blame you, because I watch a lot of media, too, and I've been part of it for 35 years. We are grateful that you're here. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
So, with 34 days away from an election, I've covered politics my whole life. It is a long, hard, tough, grueling process, as you know. What's this process like for you?
As you said, it's a long process, and you just need to be in it and enjoy it as much as you can. Also, you need to be very focused and take it day by day. Some surprises come as well, so it is very important that you prepare for those surprises.
What's election day and election night like for you? I'm sure if I was on the ballot, I would imagine I'd probably be a wreck. You know?
Well, as I explained in my book, I'm very calm. That's maybe my personality. And because I know on the election day, it's all in the people's hands. Yeah. People decide what they want for this country. And it will be again this year on November 5th. Yeah,
here we go again, your third run. You know, one of the most interesting stories to me is when, and I've known your husband for many years, long before he ever got into politics. And then when he was thinking about it, we had a lot of late night conversations about issues, and we would kind of go back and forth and debate. And what's so fascinating is that he was going up against 16 of the top governors and senators in our country. And when he brought the issue to you that he was thinking of running, you're quoted as saying, well, you know, if you run, you're going to win. True story?
True story.
How did you know?
I saw how people react to him, and his a passion for this country. And we travel all around the world, and he was making speeches at that time, and I saw what the people want, and I think the country was ready for change. They wanted to have somebody who was not in politics all the time, and I saw it. I saw in him as well that he really wants to do it at that time. He was talking for many, many years, but he really felt 2016 was the right time.
What, if anything, is different this time around?
I would think that the world, and especially United States, is more divided than ever before. We are dealing with much more danger, and especially we see what's going on the world and the threats that we get, and my husband, what he went through in the last few months.
Yeah, I'm going to get to the issue of the assassination, and there are new threats, as you know, and we'll talk about that. Let's talk about the divided country. And you often talk about you want the country united. I like the country united. Some people wouldn't believe it, but I have very strong political beliefs about what the right thing to do is to get the country on the right track, putting politics aside. How do you reconcile those that want open borders and those that want secure borders, those that want high taxes and those that want tax cuts and a free market economy? How do you reconcile those that want to defund and dismantle the police and those that believe in law and order, or those that believe in energy independence and those that don't, or those that believe in peace through strength and those that, for example, Kamala Harris doesn't think we should use the words radical Islamic terrorism? How do you reconcile such differing views in your view and be united as you want, like you talk about?
I think we need to listen to each other. I think we need to we have different perspectives. We have different beliefs. We need to respect our freedom of speech, our individuality. I think it's very important that ideas are heard, that we have a very straightforward communications, and we share the idea, we debate, because I think with that we could have innovation and success in this country. I feel it's a troubling trade in this country that we are canceling people that they don't agree on certain issues.
I want to talk to you about, you've been a victim of cancel culture in ways that I never knew about. And I want to get to that too in the course of this interview. Politics, though, has gotten pretty rough and tumble. And again, having done this for over three decades, look at what you and your family have had to go through. I covered the Russia, as the president would say, the Russia hoax, Russia, right? 3 years, it was all based on a lie, and it was debunked. I watched him go through not one, but two impeachments. We'll get to the assassination attempts. He has been through so much, but so have you. And what stunned me is when you actually said that when they first impeached him, oh, I'm surprised it took so long. Wow, you were expecting it all.
I did, because I saw how they treat him, how the media was against him. I think they are afraid of his strength. And he was leading this country with peace through strength. Yeah. So as soon he announced that he's running for the president, everything really changed. And I saw it, and I said, you know, this will not be very pleasant, but I knew what he's into it, what he will need to deal with. And as soon he announced a presidency, and then when he won, they start already talking about the impeachment. The opposition newspaper had the front page story, impeachment is starting. So I always said to him, what is next? So it's, in one way, you're not surprised. And every event that it happened, I'm thinking, what is next? What they are trying to do. And you always fear the worst, and that it happened.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.